Schools pointed to spots where it's too dangerous for kids walking to school, and there are too many to fix. If you love a good Colorado conspiracy theory, let me tell you about the Batty new one that involves, well, a bat research project at CSU.
Is Bat Cave going in our backyard?
You've asked why a monopoly like Xcel Energy needs to advertise. The company is finally answering questions about that. And we fact-check a false claim by one of the top fundraising candidates for Denver mayor, and another false claim, and another, 7 total, all from one interview. Hey, if you enjoy the truth, you're in the right place, because this is next. There are places in Colorado where kids are expected to walk to school, places where the adults know full well that the route is not safe. There's a program to fix the most dangerous spots, but it has less than half the funding it needs. Arnusha Roy looks at why kids' safety is such a low priority.
2 blocks away from Seacrest Elementary in Arvada, there is something missing. This stretch of Pierce Street, marked by walking and bike route signs, doesn't have a sidewalk.
It's important to make these kinds of improvements because they provide safety for school children.
After parents said that this is getting dangerous and the city's own assessment, the city wanted to be proactive. It was awarded a $500,000 grant through the Safe Routes to School program. So now it's working on adding 1,500 linear feet of sidewalk.
There isn't the kind of safety concern yet, but we've done a risk assessment showing that there's a potential for that. It's possible to complete this for the city of Arvada, but it may have taken longer to get to.
That's the crux of the problem. Where is the money to help kids get to school safely, not just in Arvada, but across the state?
All kids deserve a safe route to school.
Annalise Van Vano is with CDOT running the Safe Routes program. It gave out $36 million worth of grants between 2005 and 2021, but received $80 million worth of requests.
The funding has prioritized highways and larger arterial roads and has not prioritized biking and walking for many, many decades.
It's a struggle because the program used to be federally funded until 2012. Then the rules started to change, requiring applicants to have 20% cash to match the grant. From there was different legislation, all meant to solidify the program's existence, but differences were never resolved. So the Safe Routes program was absorbed into bigger programs, and the direct source of funding vanished. So now Van Vano said that they are piecing the money together through various federal programs and finding additional state funding.
I think that's starting to change now as CDOT prioritizes reducing greenhouse gases in our transportation system.
So today I learned a little bit about Center, that's in southern Colorado. Officials there saying that they have high obesity rates and they wanted to encourage kids to walk and bike to school, but there were no crosswalks in front of the schools. The kids didn't have bikes or warm clothes to be able to walk or bike during the winter or whenever it's cold out. So the grant money is helping them build out those sidewalks and bridges. They're even building up a bike fleet for the kids, and they have seen a change in the number of people going to school via biking or walking, the parents feeling better about it. But with every one of those success stories, Kyle, is the other side of all of those similar situations that have gone unfunded.
I mean, good for Tiny Center down the San Luis Valley. But I mean, no matter what school we're talking about, there are a couple of benefits if we can reduce like a ton of cars idling around the school.
Exactly, right? And that one of the big points here is that if you can reduce the traffic, you actually improve the air quality around these schools for these kids. And the state said that so far they've reached around 43% of elementary and middle schools here in Colorado. They would like to reach a whole bunch more. They've actually been able to waive that matching grant proportion of this that hopefully helps out communities that may not have the money to fork that up right up front.
Anusha, thank you. Colorado State University does all kinds of research involving animals. A plan to build a new research facility for bats has stirred up opposition from far-right commentators and COVID conspiracy theorists. They're convinced that COVID is going to do dangerous COVID bat stuff there.
Nothing concerns people more these days than hearing that a research lab is going into their backyard. What about a bat research lab? Fort Collins is not exactly moving down a conservative path in any way, shape, or form. And to go from their transgender ideology to now their bat institution.
I'm not sure that I quite get the connection between transgender rights and bats, but anyway, that is Sharona Bishop, former campaign manager for Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Bishop is now one of the conservative media personalities who's pushing to stop the construction of this CSU Bat Research facility. CSU says the 14,000 square foot enclosure will be a place where they can breed bats and then study how bats transmit infectious diseases. The National Institute of Health has awarded CSU a $6.7 million grant for this. Critics of the project have formed a group called the CSU Bat Research Moratorium of Colorado. They're calling for CSU's construction on the project to be halted until Republicans in Congress hold hearings on the origins of COVID, including conservative theories that a research facility in Wuhan, China, intentionally developed COVID and then unleashed it on humans. CSU's biosafety director pointed out that their facility doesn't even have the clearance to work with highly infectious diseases.
It seems to me that if you put bats and humans together in a lab setting, what might you get? Which is what we dealt with the pandemic as it was released into the public, into the world, as a pandemic killing millions of people.
Because this breeding facility is designed for just that, breeding and then some experiments. And those experiments will be done at something called animal biosafety level 2, which is not an acceptable biosafety level for Ebola, Nipah, MERS, SARS-CoV.
CSU noted that they have conducted bat-related research for decades, never had an incident of human infection. Larimer County leaders have approved construction on this project, and it's expected to be complete by 2025. A Denver mayoral candidate who is among the leading fundraisers is also quite prolific at making obviously false claims. Andy Rougeau, a Republican who's put $500,000 of his own money into the race, is campaigning on some statements that are really easily debunked.
My name is Andy Rougeau, and I'm running for mayor to fight for Denver's future.
But mayoral candidate Andy Rougeau is currently in a battle with the truth. In just one recent interview on George Brockler's talk radio show, Rougeau racked up a whopping 7 false claims.
Because when you look at me versus all the other candidates who are all sort of career politicians, the difference is I am the only person who's saying I will enforce the campaign ban.
That's not true. Rougeau packed 2 falsehoods into one sentence. He's not the only candidate in the race who isn't a career politician. Not even close. Of the 17 candidates for Denver mayor, 2/3 of them are new or relatively new to politics. Rougeau's claim that he's the only candidate saying he'll enforce the camping ban is also not true. Here are the candidates at a recent event, raising their hands to say they'd enforce it. Here it is in bold print in candidate Chris Hansen's homelessness plan. Here's candidate Trini Rodriguez talking about expanding enforcement of the camping ban.
Whether they're ready for it or not.
Rougeau then dropped another whopper.
Because I'm the only candidate with actual business experience in this race.
Candidate Kelly Bruff ran the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. Candidate Kwame Spearman is the CEO of Tattered Cover Bookstores. Candidate Thomas Wolf is an investment banker. Candidate Aurelio Martinez has run a restaurant and a business center. Candidate Robert Trita is a developer.
No, I've owned and operated a business in Denver for 27 years, building residential homes and commercial projects.
Speaking of building, Rougeau constructed another false claim that people who have built homes are waiting a year for a certificate of occupancy to move in.
Yeah, a year of people waiting for a stamp from the government to be able to move into a home that's already finished.
That's not true. Denver does have big delays getting building projects approved. But once the build is finished, Community Planning and Development says the final sign-off and certificate of occupancy, that comes in 1 or 2 business days. Rougeau also falsely blamed Denver's pedestrian deaths on jaywalking by people experiencing homelessness.
When we're having a spike of pedestrian deaths, mostly caused by homeless individuals cutting across busy streets.
The medical examiner's statistics show that most pedestrians killed in 2022 were not homeless, same for 2021 and 2020. The statistics Rougeau cited as pedestrian deaths include other causes of death mixed in, like suicides and falls. Rougeau's wildest claim involves Denver's matching funds for political campaigns.
So I'm proud I'm the only candidate who is not taking that funding.
That's not true. There are 4 candidates who are not getting the matching funding. Rougeau claimed without offering any evidence that there are mayoral candidates who are paying themselves salaries out of those funds. Denver Election says that would violate campaign finance law.
So we are encouraging people to pay themselves salaries for fake runs for mayor.
They're paying themselves salaries off of the matching funds?
Yes, I think it's criminal.
Rougeau wouldn't tell us who he's talking about, so we went through every campaign's expense reports. Nothing there. Rougeau then told us the money's being hidden through payroll companies. Both campaigns using a payroll company provided copies of their payroll forms for us to examine. we found no evidence to back up Rougeau's claim, which Denver Election says it would investigate if he wants to name names and put it in writing. We should acknowledge that is one of the longest fact-check segments that we have ever had on 9 News. We've been fact-checking political candidates in Colorado for years. And to be honest with you, it's the first time we've ever encountered 7 obviously false statements in a politician's single public appearance. When we talk about homelessness, we know that there are several paths in and there are several paths out. Severe mental health issues can be one path into homelessness. The nonprofit CARES community can be one path out. Since Wednesday, your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign has raised more than $10,000 to support CARES's work. CARES community is transitional housing for people who don't need to be hospitalized for their mental health anymore, but they're not quite ready to live on their own. You can scan that QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to join me in donating. About 80% of the people who spend time at CARES's 2 houses in Denver have also lived on the streets at some point. CARES offers the structure and support and strategies so that people can leave that life behind and find stability and self-sufficiency. Xcel Energy is the only game in town. So why is a monopoly spending money on advertising as your bills skyrocket? We'll ask them next. We've heard from hundreds of Xcel customers as we report nearly every day on expensive energy bills and efforts to reduce them. Quite a few of you have asked about Xcel spending money on advertising. I mean, they don't have competition, so what's with the advertising? We've been asking Xcel and we finally got an answer. Our Marshall Zellinger went to an advertising executive to make some sense of this.
At Xcel Energy, we're big into the little things.
I sent you an email asking why does Xcel advertise to customers on television and radio when I can't shop for another energy provider.
Mike Chadwick is one of the next viewers who had the same question. Why does Xcel spend money on ads?
Resilient, reliable energy.
I'm sure that the millions of dollars they spend a year would offset quite a few winter bills for people that are less fortunate than myself.
It was 1 week ago today when, prompted by viewers, I asked Xcel why it advertises. I'll let Mike read you some of the answer Xcel sent me yesterday.
It is one of the tools we use to communicate with our customers, sharing news on the work we're doing, explaining our programs and services, and sharing safety and reliability information.
Everything is going carbon free. At Xcel Energy, we see it too.
That is a classic example of a corporate reputation ad.
Morgan Young is an ad executive and instructor of advertising at CU Boulder.
I've made some of these ads myself, by the way, not for Xcel, but for other companies, yeah.
Unlike advertising between rival companies, Young believes ads like these are to offset the negative thoughts you might associate with Xcel when the power goes out or your bill skyrockets.
That's why we have programs that save you money, all of which add up to a carbon-free future.
The reason they're doing a message like this is, again, this is about corporate responsibility and showing that they understand the needs of the customer, that they are here as an educational role.
Let's go back to Mike still reading Xcel's answer for why it advertises.
Unlike other businesses, we are also advertising to help our customers to find ways to use less of our product to help them save on their energy bills.
This refers to rebates Xcel offers, like credits on your bill for allowing the company to limit your usage when demand is high, rebates funded by a line item that you pay for on your bill.
To ask them to just cut out the advertising and move those dollars or reduce those dollars from our energy bill, well, it sounds wonderful. At the end of the day, it is pie in the sky.
We were also asked by viewers why Xcel has the naming rights for that St. Paul Arena where the Minnesota Wild play hockey. Xcel is based in Minneapolis. It's a $75 million 25-year agreement that has existed since 2000. Here is the answer to that. It says some of the ads you see on television are not paid for with customer dollars. The same is true for our naming rights with the Xcel Energy Center in Minnesota. Well, if some of the ads are not paid for with customer dollars, some are. And if some or all of the naming rights are not paid with customer dollars, customers like Mike want to know where the money comes from. So, of course, I followed up with Xcel last night asking that and did not get a response.
They want you to go away so bad.
Not answering is probably not the best way to do that.
I would agree. Marshall, thanks.
day out there. This is going to help out with some of those high energy bills. 51 for us here in Denver, our warmest day in almost 3 weeks for us here in Denver. Certainly felt pretty nice out there. Also should mention downtown Denver, close to 60 degrees this afternoon. That was the temperature I just showed you out at Denver International Airport. Now for tonight, temperatures on the mild side, but we do have kind of clearing skies. Got a few clouds overhead right now. Those will clear on up as we head through the overnight time frame. And then the northern front range, that's where you could see some winds that could gust tomorrow morning between about 40 to 50 miles an hour. Something to watch for, especially down into Boulder, as well as the west side here of Jeffco. That's where you could see some of those gusts getting on up into that 40 to 50 miles an hour for overnight and early tomorrow morning. Speaking of tomorrow, temperatures in the low 50s. Pretty nice day. Once again, some morning clouds. Those will kind of break on up as we head through the day. And then that 7-day forecast, it looks pretty nice. Take a look at this. Temperatures near 50 degrees for the rest of the weekend. A brief cool down before temperatures rise back up into the mid to upper 40s by the middle of next week.
Snowbound no more. We go out and search for something to smile about. This week's good news literally gives us butterflies. Next. "336 weeks after we started doing it, we still love sharing your good news on Friday. It's a nice break from the other stuff. Today's weather inspired us to head to Westminster's Butterfly Pavilion.
What's our good news today? Seeing all the butterflies.
My good news of the day is visiting the Butterfly Pavilion.
My name is Jennifer Querman. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at Butterfly Pavilion, and we have invertebrates from all over the world. And those are the tiny little creatures without a backbone that are so critical for all life on Earth.
I'm Kelly. I'm from Long Beach.
I'm Mindy. I'm from Longmont.
And our good news of the day is that the Nuggets won yesterday.
So it's a great day.
We're just here at the Butterfly Pavilion having a good time on Friday.
The Butterfly Quest is an engaging opportunity to be able to interact and get engaged with the 1,800 plus butterflies we have in our Wings of the Tropics Conservatory.
What do you have to say? Can you look up there and say we're seeing the butterflies?
They scan the QR code with their phone. They search for butterflies that have been tagged with a colored number tag, and then they record their information in the phone, and it helps our scientists with a longevity study.
Yeah, the last time I was here I was probably like 10 or 11, maybe 12 years old, so still tells me how much that I love insects. I'm still so geeked out on it. Feel the life kind of come back. I live in Telluride and it's really snowy right now, and so there's not much happening other than snowboarding, so it's nice just to feel like refreshed and float like a butterfly. 100%. Everyone should visit at least once if you're in the Denver area.
Sometimes you'll send a piece of feedback, and I'm like, that's it. That is what it is all about. We've got one of those next. A word of thanks tonight from an ex-viewer named Nora about your latest micro-giving campaign for Karis Community, transitional housing for people experiencing severe mental health issues. She writes, I cannot tell you of a more deserving community. Nora says, I stayed there for a year and a half. My life was forevermore changed. Sue writes in tonight to say, please, please continue to explore the Excel story. I have learned so much, and I appreciate that you share how you learn. That's what it's all about. We're not here because we know everything. We're here because we love to learn, and we love to share it with you. Marshall's going to keep knocking on Excel's door.